There's an antique shop about a block away from my place. I liked the store. There was something warm and fuzzy about the whole concept of selling old items that had belonged to others previously. But for some reason, I never bothered to step inside to check out the interesting paintings and trinkets they had on display. That is, until one day, they had changed the storefront and a beautiful painting on display caught my attention. I entered the store and asked the owner to show me the painting. She grabbed it from the storefront and placed it on an easel tripod. To be honest, I never bought a painting in my life. I'm a practical person, and therefore the purchases I make always have a purpose, like a vacuum, microwave, and so on. However, there was something about the painting that made me fall in love with it. I had to get it regardless of the price. And luckily, it cost less than what you would pay for a nice set of cookwares. I arrived home soon after and right away began to scope out the area where I would hang the painting. I looked everywhere, but there was no better place to hang it than in my bedroom. After all, if I love it so much, why not sleep with it was the idea. So I hung it on the wall opposite to my bed headboard. That way I could fall asleep looking at the beautiful woman taking a stroll on the beach. Yeah, that was the drawing on the painting. It was of a beautiful woman in a white dress. She looked classy and elegant. So don't think that I got the painting because of nudity or sexiness. There was none of that. This woman was classically beautiful. That night, as I fell asleep, it almost seemed like I could hear the sounds of the waves gently washing over the beach. It was pleasing to my mind to imagine stepping on the wet sand. The sound of gentle crushing of the sands was tranquil and serene. I was in heaven, and to that testament, I had the most relaxing sleep I ever had that night. When I woke up in the morning, the first thing I did was to walk up to the painting and admire it for a while. It is very unlike me to do such thing. In the past, I would have considered such action as wasting the precious little time I have in the mornings. But not anymore. The painting clearly had some emotional impact on me, and it was one that was positive. Taking the time to appreciate something as such couldn't be considered wasting time. What can I say? I have fallen in love with it. From that day on, I began to find myself doing more activities in the bedroom. Instead of eating in the kitchen or in the living room as I would have in the past, I would bring the food on a tray and have dinner in my bedroom. If I had documents to go over, I would bring them into the bedroom instead of going over them on the dinner table as I normally would have. For the exception of cooking and pooping, I did everything in the bedroom. I was so infatuated with the woman in the painting that I even stopped seeing my friends. Then one day, I began to realize that the painting actually had a negative effect on me. I might have been sleeping well thanks to it, but my personal relationships were in disarray due to the sheer amount of time I was spending at home. With a painting of all things, how ridiculous is that? So that day, I told myself I had to put an end to that. I got the painting off the wall, wrapped it with a blanket, then stashed it under the bed. Unfortunately, sleep didn't come easy from that night. I would hear things when I tried to go to sleep, like something scratching against the wooden surface. It was unpleasant and creepy for sure. I was astonished at what the mind could do to you. I had gotten so habituated in sleeping while gazing at the painting that now I was imagining unpleasant things when going to bed, just so I would have an excuse to return the painting on display. I got up in the middle of the night and pulled out the painting from under the bed. The plan was to take it out of the frame and dump it into the garbage. But that didn't happen. When I unwrapped the blanket of the painting, I saw the fingers of the woman in the painting had been dyed red. I quickly wrapped it back with the blanket, then tossed it in the hallway. I returned to my bedroom because I had a hunch and wanted to be proven wrong. The bed frame is made of wood. The last few days, I've been hearing something scratching against the wooden surface. And now, the woman in the painting has got bloody fingers. I had my clues. Now I had to see it for myself. I crawled under the bed with my back against the floor. I pulled myself out of there as soon as I got in. I was huffing and puffing like I had just sprinted 100 meters. I was scared out of my mind because there were red scratch marks at the bottom of the bed frame. They had been made by a person, and there was no mistaking that. I grabbed my car keys and cell phone, put on a tracksuit, then I got the hell out of my apartment. I slept at my friend's that night and returned home the next morning. I called in to work to let them know I'd be coming in late. Then I placed the painting on the coffee table and asked myself how I should get rid of it. I didn't want to throw it out in case someone else would end up with the painting. I didn't want to burn it because for some reason I felt that the woman in the painting might be able to escape that way and end up haunting me for an eternity. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I've never dealt with something like this before, so naturally I've got no clue as to how you're supposed to deal with angry spirits. I decided that the best way to get rid of the painting was to return it to the store. I went back to the store, but the person tending the store wasn't the lady who sold me the painting previously. I told the gentleman that I had purchased the painting a while back and that I wanted to return it. I told him that I didn't need the money and that he could just take it back for free. Then the gentleman responded, "We don't get many customers here. We deal mostly with regular clients and that make it a habit to remember each and every one of them. But I don't remember selling this to you." So then I say to him, "Yeah, you're right. I bought this from a lady. I assume she's your employee or your wife?" "No, that's not possible. I work here alone." "Oh well, it doesn't matter. I'm not a young lad anymore. Maybe I forgot." The gentleman responds. I didn't say anything back to him. I didn't have to. What was I going to say? That the lady in the painting has sold me the painting that she's in? Obviously not. And yeah, that's how I concluded the business, and my home has been free of ghosts ever since. I sometimes wonder if I should have warned them about the painting, or if perhaps I should have set it on fire or something permanent like that. In any event, what's done is done. I just gotta hope that no one buys that painting ever again. Back in 2012, I was 25 and was working for, in my opinion, the most terrible company in Japan. Work always ended late, sometimes very late. The pay was poor and working condition was hellish. Therefore, on the same year, I set out to look for a new job and thankfully got an interview in Tokyo. My resume was pretty good, the interview went well, and hence the company took me on full-time with better pay and much better hours. I moved to Tokyo almost right away, but ended up in an apartment located in a not so much sought-after neighborhood. It couldn't be helped with housing prices as they are. If you want an apartment in an ideal neighborhood, then you better be ready to shell out the big bucks, and I don't have the big bucks. Coming home after work is fine since I end up arriving at my apartment at around 6 p.m. at the latest. It's still bright outside and there are plenty of people out on the streets, so it's safe. The problem is coming home after doing anything else but work. Whether that be shopping or hanging out with friends, by the time I come home, it's normally around 8 or 9 p.m. and it's really dark by then. It's around that time when you see the bad apples of the town come out and roam the streets. There are some high school kids smoking on the sidewalk, neighbors having a shouting match, and when it's even later than 8 p.m., that's when you see some random drunks just laying on the sidewalk or walking around aimlessly. Cheap rent comes at a cost. I knew that before moving here, but it doesn't mean that I have to like it. The situation in my apartment isn't that much better. I've lucked out with the floor above and with the people next doors. They are generally quiet and none of them seem to smoke. The problem is actually the apartment itself. First off, the elevator is a piece of junk. It randomly stops on floors that you don't select, and it's really scary when that happens at night. Another big problem is the sound insulation. When someone's walking in the hallway outside, I can actually hear the footsteps all the way from my bedroom with the door closed, mind you. My coworkers tell me that my place isn't half bad considering the rent. I get what they're saying, but let's just say that it isn't much of consolation. But anyhow, there was this one night that I'll never forget in my life. It happened about 2 weeks since I moved to the apartment. Things were unfamiliar to say the least, and let me tell you, living alone for the first time didn't help with the situation. It was a Friday night, and I was coming home late after having dinner and some drinks with my coworkers. The streets were void of people. And I was really happy about that since it meant that I didn't have to deal with the bad apples of the town. By the time I arrived at my apartment, the time was roughly around midnight. I walked straight into the lobby, then called for the elevator right away. The atmosphere was really spooky due to the unusual silence. Around here, you always hear someone doing something noisy at all hours of the day. At any rate, the elevator arrives, the doors open, and I see a woman standing inside. I wait for her to get out, but she doesn't move, even until the doors begin to close on their own. I place my hand on the edge of one of the doors to stop them from closing, get inside, then press the button for my floor. The ride takes not much longer than 5 seconds, but it feels like an eternity. I feel that I should have taken the stairs instead. I hear a ding, the doors open, I get out, and for some reason, turn around to have one last look at the woman inside the elevator. Curiosity is a powerful emotion. I take a few steps forward, then turn around. The woman does nothing while the elevator's idle. But I notice one thing that freaks me out to the core. I can't say this with absolute certainty, but I don't think her feet are touching the ground. I back away slowly so as not to freak her out. I'm hoping that the doors close before she realizes what I saw. The doors begin to close and I let out a sigh of relief. But right before the door closes completely, I see the woman look up, then she looks straight into my eyes. My heart stops for a second from the terror, but I soon turn around and run toward my apartment like a demented person. I get under the blanket as soon as I get home. I'm acting like a 5-year-old, wishing that the things I can't see don't exist. The only problem is, I don't think that a sheet of blanket could stop a ghost from haunting me. Regardless, I felt safer inside the blanket. After that day, I'm not sure if I'm just hearing things because I'm scared, but I've been hearing sounds of footsteps at late hours of the night. I haven't seen the woman inside the elevator since that day, but that's mostly because I've been taking the stairs when there's no one else riding the elevator. The other night, I decided I was going to get to the bottom of this. At around midnight, I began hearing the footsteps again. I was terrified, but got up anyway and walked toward the front door. The footsteps continued as I was walking toward the door. Then when I stopped right in front of the door, the footsteps stopped as well. I looked into the peephole and saw that the woman from the elevator was standing about a meter away from the door. I instantly looked away, then walked quietly to my bedroom. I got under the blanket again and didn't get out until the sun rose. I've been staying at my cousin's since that day, and I only return to my apartment to get the things I need from time to time. I only go there during daytime, and I always take my cousin when I do. I already spoke to the landlord, and I'm moving out soon, regardless of the penalty that comes with breaking the rental contract. This is how I look at my situation. The woman from the elevator is either a ghost or she's a person with some serious problems. If it's a ghost, then I need not explain myself for moving out. But if she's a lunatic, then perhaps that's even more of a reason to move out and disappear to where she can't find me. No matter what happens, I'm not spending another day in that apartment.